And don't forget the strangest secret. We become what we think about.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the founder and chairman, Mr. Steve Morris.
Mr. Steve Morris.
Words define all meaning and your pure potential. Never underestimate the power of the human mind and your pure potential. Focusing on only what you want. The sky's the limit in this room. Good morning. How y'all doing? I got 2 hours sleep last night. I'm not sure how this is going to go, but we'll try to have some fun. That was Earl Nightingale, my first mentor. He started literally the positive thinking mentality through the 1990s and beyond. Bob Proctor, you know, perhaps he passed just a while ago, but I took all of his courses and everything else. He was Nightingale's vice president for 13 years. And we all, from an impressionary standpoint, took the same courses together to get educated, to find out the meaning of life. That's what that was all about. And what it comes down to is there's a tremendous sense of simplicity when you really get at it. It's very complicated, the meaning of life, but there's some simple principles there that are totally functional to everybody. And it doesn't matter who you are. And of course, back in those days, they only related to the males of the species, right? And today, we're very much relating to the female of the species as well. Yeah. Now, first of all, just to start off with, I want to thank everybody that's helped to put this convention together. Christina Lewis has been with me since she was 18 years of age. And it's 32 years. I don't want to say her age. But her and her team, from head office, do an absolutely magnificent job. This is not easy to do this kind of thing. It's a very detail-oriented thing to, have it all come off. How many people have enjoyed it so far? Okay. And little bits and pieces for everybody. That's what it's all about. It's all about self-improvement, growth and development. And Giacomo and his technology back there and his team, magnificent. All of the top producers yesterday, the trophies, unbelievable, champions. We're sitting among, you might be sitting beside somebody that made a couple of $1 million last year. I mean, there are champions all through this room here. So I'm not speaking to the choir here. But we're going to go a little deeper today. And, when we went to the fun night, which I thought was our best fun night ever, that's just where I was coming from. The one thing that I noticed, the cross-section of younger people in the room and how eager they are to learn. Wow. I mean, I've been dealing with baby boomers my whole life. Not a lot of them eager to learn. Bent and twisted. We were all raised with the wooden spoon, the kitchen sink, Dad's belt coming out of the loops before it hit the ceiling, before it hit me. Conditioned with pain. Baby boomers were conditioned with pain. You either did it or your father's going to speak to you when he gets home. Oh yeah, you know where I'm coming from? Yeah. The younger ones never got that. They were not raised with pain. Now, we got into that word entitlement because of this switch in that, and so on and so forth, no more pain. And that question was always there, spare the rod and spoil the... Yeah, that's interesting. Your butts for 2 or 3 reasons, and wampum was one of them. And we took that out of the equation with Dr. Spock. You're not allowed to do that anymore. Now your kid can take you to court and sue you. He can write a book. You can get into big trouble here if you go down that path that they went down, because that was what was passed down from generation to generation. That's how they did it. So I was raised a little bit differently than a lot of people in the room. And so I've got my perspective. So when I dump them out here, because what I was asked at the fun night, this is where I was going, by some younger people, half my age at least, if not 2/3. Hey, getting a little long in the tooth. When two people get together, there's only 4 things you can talk about. Me, you, them, and it. There is no other topic. They didn't want to know about it. They didn't want to know about them. They didn't want to know anything about themselves. It wasn't about that. They said, "Who are you?" And they're sitting there gawking at me, having a drink, and sitting there saying, "Who are you? How'd you get here? How did you do all this? What are your component parts?" And I thought I got to rearrange the furniture here with regard to where I was going with all of this, because I want to get with the theme of what's going on here. Now, this week, it's just a couple of days passed by, I heard more about affirmations than I've heard in years, which I just love. Now, keep in mind, I introduced the affirmation principle to the real estate industry in 1976. And everybody thought I was crazy. Well, I've been told I was crazy ever since I was born. They pretty well figured that out. You're crazy. That'll never work. And Mike Ferry introduced it into his organization. I don't know if you really relate to him, but during the days of the telephoning technique, before the do not call list came out, the top 5% in the real estate industry hammered on the phone 2 hours a day, probably 5 days a week, standing, looking at themselves in the mirror and all this other stuff. I don't know if you can relate to where that was, but that's how they did it. And Ferry worked for Nightingale, worked for Proctor, and Proctor fired Ferry because they didn't like each other. And Ferry spun off, made $18 million a year, drove 3 Rolls Royces. I've had one, so I know what that's like. He had 3 of them. But they didn't like each other. It was 2 rocks like this. Very strong personalities, but they had a message. Ferry was going to do it his way. And he took what he learned from Nightingale, the old guru. It was Nightingale Conant in Texas. And he spun off and he dealt with the top 5% in the industry. No nonsense, shoot from the hip. It's not about advertising and promotion. That was Ferry's position. It's about canvassing on the telephone. You're going to get MLS to work for you. You're not going to work for MLS. Stack up the listings, and then MLS is working for you. It's not about running buyers. And that's just the attitude that he had. And they did that for 30 years, 35 years. So you can see the expression of things that transpired as a result of heavy-duty personalities that have been in this business with characters. Not all of them got along with each other, but they made stuff work. That's what you call leadership. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but I see an absence of leadership in North America today. Are you with me? Absence of leadership. It sickens me because there's got to be a captain of the ship. And I'm a Canadian, so I can't preach to the choir as far as Americans are concerned. It's none of my business. But I know what's going on in my country, and I'm not happy with it. So he said it's an absence of leadership. Okay, we need better leaders. Guess what? There's probably a leader, and there most definitely is in this room, living inside of you. And so what we want to do today is go a little bit deeper with some of my history, because that's what the kids were asking me for. Can you tell me about you? Some of it is sensitive to me, and I wasn't planning on going there. So every once in a while, I'm probably going to have to grab my composure because some of it's painful. I heard stories up here on this stage the first day. I can't believe some of the ghettos that people were in that they had to climb out of to make it work. And I was just so incredibly proud. Wow. Unbelievable stories. I was more impressed by those stories, heart-wrenching stories of what the person had to go through than the how-to sessions. You know, there's so many how-to sessions. Oh, this is how you take a listing. This is how you get a price reduction. It's all about it. Instead of saying it's all about me, and this is the struggle I've gone through, because guess what? I don't think there's anybody sitting here that hasn't been through some serious struggles in their lives. But you don't talk about it much, okay? And sometimes there's a healing process. I know anybody that got up here that told their story on Monday or Tuesday, there was a healing process taking place, because when you get it out there and, you lay it out there, nature has a way of putting a Band-Aid on the laceration. So it's been a wonderful sense of self-expression on stage with the wonderful people, orators one and all. Some of them required, paper and read it and everything else. More of the C temperaments and the S temperaments need that, and that's understandable. Some of us were more spontaneous. Hal Elrod did a phenomenal job. I got to speak to the kid for, I have to call him a kid. For 3/4 of an hour at the fun night, we had some fun together, just talking and chatting, and he's picking my brain about, how we did all this. And wonderful sense of communication, open, easy communication. You can always tell when you're with somebody that where the resonance is there. It's just there. There's no roadblocks. There's none of this stuff. And open, totally eager to take that next step. Where you've been, what did you do, how did you do it? I could use that. I can use that. I don't want to use that, but I can use that. And so I thought today we would take a little bit of a look, go back in history a little bit with me, and then I'm going to go where I'm going to go with this and spin it off. I'm not too concerned about the time frame today. We don't have anything following me much afterwards. And anybody that knows me knows I'm not too boundary oriented. I don't really give a sweet damn, okay? There's important stuff that's going to transpire in this room, and some of it you're going to be able to relate to. And there's a lot of water under the bridge here. I've been in the business 48 years. I've been working 59 years. So another year or so, I've been working 6 decades. There's not a lot of people sitting in this room that are 6 decades old, okay? I've been out there in the workforce since I was 19. I started working at 11 years old on the farms, in the potato farms, 11 years old. Now let's go back a little bit. Let's just see where I can get this started. I wasn't thinking about doing this, but let's do it. What made you into you? Okay, let's look at this. And some of it's painful. I'm born, August 1746, about 6:40 in the morning. Leo personality. I'm a double Leo rising. I got lots of that. I got air signs, water signs in there. I don't have any earth and I don't have any water. So I have to surround myself with people that have got that stuff because I don't have it. I didn't come to the world with that stuff. But I've got fire and air. You can do a lot with fire and air. Oh yeah, blowtorch. Blowtorch, baby. Human blowtorch. You want to get into communication? Let's talk about that. Now, hard birth, born coming in feet first. Umbilical cord wrapped around my neck, had to push me back in and turn me around, everything else hard on my mom. But back in those days, the mothers were out. They weren't awake during the birth. They were out. Tough on her. And my father had a hard time accepting the fact that I was his because Mom got pregnant too quick when he came back from the Navy. Now, nobody explained to my father that it only takes one shot. He never got that. I'm born blonde. My dad had black hair, his father had black hair, his brother had black hair, and I'm born blonde. He's sure I'm not his, and took a position on that. And of course, when I grew up a little bit and everything else, we both had short legs and long bodies, and we looked the same. We were practically the same person in 2 different bodies. But a lot of damage was done through there because of his resistance. Let's go there, resistance. You got to check yourself out every once in a while, because most of your problems in your life is because you resist. Now, if you went into Eckhart Tolle's information on now and so on and so forth, you did any studying there, he would sit there, because he was about to commit suicide before he discovered who he really was. He took his position, and he hit me home with this very seriously. Resist nothing. Elrod got into that a bit. Resist nothing. Quit resisting. Inhibition is resistance. Okay? Now, so as I go down there, I'm going to try to knit this together, hook one, pearl two. I'm going to try to knit my sweater as I go here. I haven't got the foggiest idea where I'm going, but I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'm tired. What do I know? And so I'm not my father's favorite kid. Next brother born had black hair. Next brother born had black hair. I'm blonde. Turned a little bit brown after 5 years old, but it was really blonde in the beginning. And so my father was on my grandfather's property, opened up a restaurant called the Blue Roof Restaurant. Blue Roof Restaurant. It was a truck stop, okay, if you can understand what that is. And there was 2 restaurants in town, so it was a competitive situation. And I grew up in that environment for my first 7 years. And I soon learned one thing, and if you're a baby boomer, you might be able to relate to this. Go outside. We weren't allowed to stay inside. Go outside. We're busy in here. It's a restaurant. And it was the saloon doors there of the kitchen and whatnot, and cooking stuff and everything, serving stuff and cooking stuff and serving stuff. It was breakfast, lunch, and supper. That's what it was. They had a jukebox there, music playing, always music in the background, pinball machines, all that stuff. Go outside and play. You're in the way. Go outside and play. And if you're going to be in here, you're going to peel potatoes, you're going to sweep the floor, or you're going to dry dishes. So I knew a couple of things. If I'm in there, I got to work. If I'm outside, I'm by myself, because I was the firstborn out of 36 grandchildren on one side. These relatives of mine were like rabbits. They knew how to make babies. But they weren't born yet. I was the first one. Go outside and play. Well, Mom, what am I going to do out there? I'm by myself. Hey, use your imagination. Here's a fork, here's a knife, here's a spoon. Go dig in the sand. Use your imagination. That's all I had. I didn't have anybody to play with and everything else. And then the seasons changed. It's winter. Mom, what? Go outside and play. Make snowmen, angels. Make a fort, a snow fort. Make a snowman. Imagination. So every time I was out there, number one, I was by myself. And number two, there was only one word hooked into my brain, that was imagination. So how did that carry for me for the rest of my entire life? If I want to create something, and I'm a very creative person. That's an interesting affirmation. I'm a very creative person, but I create on my own. I cannot create in a group. I don't know about you. If I'm with a group of people, their thought patterns clog me up. I can't think of anything that's originative. But if you want some inventive stuff, put me in a room by myself, give me a pad of paper and a pencil, and I'll come up with some pretty good ideas. By myself. No. Very important, by myself, creative imagination. So it was that idea connected in with me, you're by yourself, use your imagination, and I'm just a little punk kid. What do I know? Under 7. But when I'm in there, if you're drying dishes, hey, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. These are words from my father. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. He's looking at me. And the two of us are like water and rock, okay? It's just like, But he dropped some pearls of wisdom on me from time to time. And so that was the first bit there. I'm just a kid. Get up into grade 3. I'm in grade 3. I didn't know it, but my eyes, I have an astigmatism in both eyes. I got Rh negative blood. That's one of the characteristics. And in grade 3, you're starting to, like back then, you're starting to learn how to read. And I I couldn't see the words. I was looking at the page. Jack and Jill climbed up the hill to get a bucket of water, whatever it was. I'm looking at the page. All the kids seem to be able to figure it out. And they're reading, and they sit a circle of kids around like this with one in the middle. Stand up. You're going to read, and we're all going to listen. Now it's your turn to stand up and read. And they stood me up to read, and I couldn't see the words. And the kids would laugh. I got destroyed 1,000 times that way. Young kid, in grade 3, destroyed by his peer group. A Leo personality. If you're raising little Leo kids, first thing you do is never upstage their personality in front of their peers. Never do that. I was destroyed. Wow. They laughed at me every time. I couldn't see the words. I didn't even know there was words. I didn't start wearing specs until much later in my career. I didn't know that I could raise up the print a little bit so I could see it a little bit closer, but I couldn't see what was going on. So I wasn't what you would call a good student in any way, shape, or form. But going through public school is not a problem because there's not so many tests you have to pass. But you get into high school, that was a whole different story. 2 hours of homework, and all of a sudden it's detail specific and everything else, and you got to be able to say the words, right? So my uncle gets a hold of me, and he was the Army sergeant, athletic Army sergeant who got all the guys in shape, okay, to go into the Army. He'd stand in the middle, and he's got them doing push-ups and jump-ups and jumping jacks and all kinds of stuff. He was that guy. He could pole vault. He did marathons. He did all the stuff, and he looks at me, and he grabs me and says, "Listen, kid." And he's looking over at my father, not paying too much attention to me. So this was the visiting uncle. Now, he was married to a woman with Rh-negative blood like me. There's a lot of Rh-negative blood in my family. There's only 15% in the world. There's about 60% in my family. That's a very interesting thing. A lot of them consider it extraterrestrial, but we don't want to go down that path. Now, they lost, him and his wife, my crazy uncle, Aunt Clara, they lost 3 sets of twins. She couldn't carry. They didn't know about the shots, not back in those days. And so, as a visiting uncle, he started to look at me, and my dad's not paying attention to me, but he's sitting there thinking, he hasn't got kids of his own, and he's sitting there thinking, and what he worked for the CNR, the Canadian National Railway, his whole life. A lot of my people on that side worked for the railway their whole lives. But they had a baseball team, and he was the catcher in the baseball team because he was an athletic guy. He says, "Hey, get your glove." Every time they came to visit, he opened his trunk, he took his glove and the ball. "Get your glove." And they came a lot. They came to our property a lot. This is my mother and her sister and my uncle. His name was Hilton Dilworth. Now, there's a handle for you. We called him Dilly. Uncle Dilly, get your glove. Threw the ball back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. He says, if you're not getting through the school right, and they didn't know what was wrong. They didn't know about my eyes. Nobody knew about that. If we can't get your brain going in the right direction, we have to develop your body. Well, that was on his agenda. We have to develop your body. And that's the opposite of Braveheart. If you've ever seen that movie Braveheart, when the uncle takes over the kid after the family's been wiped out, he says, first we deal with this, then we deal with this. With me, it was the opposite way. First we deal with this, then we deal with this. We got to get your body in shape. What? Push-ups, chin-ups. Couldn't even chin myself once. I couldn't even do that. And sit there and say, no. He taught me how to exercise. And regimentally, on a regular basis, this is what you do over and over and over again. Throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball. He'd throw me grounders, he'd do all kinds of stuff. And I developed a very good throwing arm. Now, as a result of that, he coaxed me in to play baseball. I played the Little League and Pony League for 5 solid years, and I pitched ball. Well, it turned out that one of the umpires for the game, his son, Barry Watts, was a catcher. And he noticed that I had a very good arm because I was working with my uncle. And nobody else was practicing. I was practicing and rehearsing all the time, but the other kids weren't. I had a better arm than everybody else. I used to hunt birds with rocks. I was good. I was good with my arm. There wasn't too much else cooking here, but I had a good arm. And he says, pitching practice every Tuesday night over at our house. Now, in a baseball game, if you pitch a typical baseball game, professional baseball, it doesn't matter what it is, you're going to throw 72 balls. He says, no. We're throwing 125 balls here. It's like karate. You don't punch the board, you punch through the board. 125 balls every Tuesday night. Throw it again, and he's the umpire, and he's looking over my shoulder, and his kid is the catcher and everything else, and he's telling me like a golf pro what to do, what not to do, this is what to do. No, lift your leg a little bit higher, and I'm starting to throw my whole body into it and everything else, and I'm becoming a very, very efficient pitcher, and I pitched for 5 solid years. And there wasn't anybody that could outwit me. Now, what I'm starting to do is realize what conditioning is all about. Conditioning. Get the word, conditioning. This is what this is all about. Practice and rehearse, practice and rehearse. Now look at this for a moment. If you were Magic Johnson and you're a basketball player, 500 hoops every day, 7 days a week, your entire career, there is no ifs, ands, or maybes. That's what you do. Andre Agassi, as a tennis player, read the books for crying out loud. 500 balls over the net. That doesn't take into consideration all the other training. You got to do your rituals. You got to do your practice and rehearse, practice and rehearse, practice and rehearse. The common man doesn't do anything. The common man, the good Lord must have loved the common man because he made so many of them. They practice nothing. That's why they're common. They're a mouse on a treadmill doing the same thing that their mother told them and whatever they got in high school and blah, blah, blah. Every cab driver in the United States has got a college education. Oh, that was really good. You're the product of your beliefs and your habits, and your opinions don't mean a sweet damn. Because it's just a little information. It's inductive reasoning when you want to get into that. Inductive reasoning, gather a little bit of information. Usually it was somebody else's information. You came to conclusions, and you're following the followers, as Nightingale said, because you want to be acceptable to the group. Well, I was automatically not acceptable to the group as soon as they laughed at me in grade 3. I was not one of them. I was the joke. I was the joke. And that was a torment, and I had to overcome that. And it hurt, severely hurt. But now I'm learning through my uncle, I got to say this right because I got criticized at dinner last night for saying it wrong. Consigliere, okay, hope I got it right. That's an Italian word that means family advisor. You see it in The Godfather. Family advisor. My uncle, Dilly, turned out to be my advisor when he looked over his shoulder and saw my father wasn't fathering, and he couldn't have kids, so he started fathering and passing down his wisdom and understanding about stuff he knew because he was an expert in this. He was an athlete. That's what he was. And at 45 years of age, he could grab the chair, grab the back of the chair, and do a handstand right here. I'm thinking, this guy can do anything physically. So physicality became my base for everything, my base. And I always have a tendency to go back to it. Now, I'm 13 years of age, and for whatever reason, my knees, this didn't happen in older age. And I can blame it on how much I exercised and everything else later on, but it was actually there when I was 13 years of age. I would walk 3 steps and I'd go down. They took me to my dad took me to 3 doctors, and which was good. 3 different opinions, right? That's what you do. 2 of them said take his kneecaps off at 13 years of age, and the other one said stick a big needle in there, take the liquid out, and then we'll see if we're going to take your kneecaps off. And my dad does an alternative choice close. Which one do you want to do? What? I want to go home. There's no good choices here. I want to go home. Let me out of here. Now get the timing. Get the timing on this. My mother always had the TV going or she had the music playing, always. We go home from Hamilton, which was 14 miles away from our house in Ontario. I walk in the house and at the exact moment, Jack LaLanne, I don't know if you relate to that, the old... He's got his TV program on. He's doing jumping jacks and all this stuff. That day, now get this, that day he was doing remedial knee exercises. The moment I walked in the house, What is he doing? This is another man, okay, who's going to be an advisor, right? Just like my uncle, an advisor telling me what to do. And I'm watching him, and I'm thinking, we had bunk beds back in those days, okay? It was all I could do because they were soft and they weren't developed. I could hold on to the side of the bunk bed like this and squat down and pull myself back up. My knees were not helping me too much at all. But I said, if I can do one today, I'll do two tomorrow. And I started doing that. And I did it religiously, because if that guy says, and he's the pro, that's his expertise, he's smarter than me, he knows, I got a problem, he knows the answer, I'm going to do it. No resistance. Going to high school. 13 going into 14 going to high school. And I grew up in a farm territory. The village that I grew up in was 600 people. Everybody knew everybody else's underwear size. My dad had the restaurant. He knew all the police force and everything else. And my grandfather had a motor court there, which was like a motel, only in separate little buildings around the restaurant. So people were always coming and going, and it was the people business. And but the kids were on the farms. They were farm kids, big, strong farm kids. They were tough. Farm kids, country kids are different than city kids. Big difference. I've lived both, but hey. They would go into, and they built a high school there, a brand new high school, and they had a weight room. And the big guys would go in there and slug the weights. I would go in, watch. I was watching very carefully what they were doing. Wait for them all to leave. I would take the bar on the squat rack. No weights. Put the bar on my shoulders and try to duplicate what they were doing, squats, okay? And then try to do some repetitions and so on and so forth, because I've been working with the, holding on to the side of the bunk bed. Now I'm doing this, but nobody's around. Okay, I got to work by myself. Use your imagination, okay? And then gradually, when nobody's looking, I'm putting plates on the sides. And when I was 16, I joined a gym in Toronto on Ossington Avenue, Mac's Gym. And little Mac was about 5'3", had arms about this big around, and he claimed to be the strongest man pound for pound in the world. He was a little Japanese guy. And he was going to make me into something, okay? Because I was diligent, competent, and eager. I was an eager beaver. I wanted to know. And here's another person acting as my family advisor, as a man, passing down some wisdom and understanding. He ran the gym. He knew about this stuff. And when I was 18, I started going into competitions, and it was powerlifting. From a squatting standpoint, I squatted in formal competition 450. This was a kid who was going to lose his kneecaps because the doctor thought that was the only solution, and through remedial exercise, progressively done, little bit after a little bit, ever increasing in an ever-increasing crescendo of goodness and greatness, with some hope in there, guided by people who took time to spend on me, which I really appreciated. God love your teachers. And I wasn't built in such a way to be like a bodybuilder or anything like that, long-waisted, short-legged, blah, blah, blah. But it was me against the weights. That's really me against me. That's not me against you. That's me against me, and the weights are in the way, and I'm gonna lift the weights. So I ended up to be a very strong kid, because that's all I had going for me was my physical life. Okay, the rest of it hadn't developed yet. So I ended up, I could handle 135-pound dumbbells, 6 repetitions on a flat bench, 220-pound, 6 reps seated press, 285-pound bent over rowing. And it went on, and I dipped with 185 pounds around me, a formal dip with 185 pounds on the parallel bars. I could do stuff, but that was all I had. That was my realm. That was what I was good at. That was what my uncle passed down to me, and I had other coaches help me and everything else. I was developing, and for a young boy, if you've got young boys, the finest thing you can do is stick them in the gyms and give them some dumbbells. That's the finest thing you'll ever do. because they got testosterone and they don't know what to do with themselves and everything else. And the competition of all that is the finest blessing you could give to a kid. And the girls are getting into it too. There's no question about it. Everybody's in the gyms today. But my intellectual life had not developed, and my emotional life had not developed at all. I was in the stock brokerage business. I traded on the floor for 6 years on the floor of the stock exchange, yelling and screaming my head off. I was mathematically oriented to the point of arithmetic. I didn't go any farther than that. I was good with arithmetic. I could think fast with regard to that. And I went into the cosmetic business and studied, from the standpoint of cosmetics, the art of the presentation, selling women. And there's nobody more fickle in the world than a woman who wants to look better, okay? If you're a salesperson, you don't tell her you don't ask her what she wants, you tell her what she needs. She'll walk out with armfuls of this stuff. And top salesman across Canada for Shoppers Drug Mart, that was my client, and for Revlon. And I learned that I could sell people the way they wanted to be sold, sell them on themselves, and I'm starting to learn the selling thing and so on and so forth. And went into the insurance business because there was no future in it, but I was picking up. I did 11 years of educational stuff because I only went to grade 13. My father said he only had grade 8 education. He said, somebody in our family has to get through high school. Might as well be you. And so I kept at it, and reading was so tough for me. And the only way I could make anything stick in my brain, because it was like being dyslexic. I can't read it and have it stick. I have to read it and underline what's important. And if I highlight it and underline it, it sticks to me like glue. And I've got basically a photographic memory for anything that's important, relevant, or pertinent in my life, which is a small circle. Outside that circle, I'm basically dyslexic. But if it's important to me, it sticks like glue. So if I underline it and I highlight it, it sticks. And I had to learn how to do my own notes. Now, when I wrote Born to be Exceptional, I don't know if you read that book. It's all bullet points. And the reason it's all bullet points is because that's how I think. It's all racked and stacked in my head that way. I don't think in full sentences. In fact, if you clocked all this, I don't even speak in full sentences. I really don't care. I want to make a point. This is the point. This is what's important. Do I have to pass an English test for this? No, I don't. No, I don't. So I got... What's the purpose in this? I got a few things that don't work, but I got other things that do work. Okay, and you're not the same, right? You're not so good at this, but you're good at this, right? And we've all got assets like that. You've got assets and liabilities. Everybody's got their measure of that. Some kids are born mathematical. I got one kid in my family, DJ, he was writing like 97% in trig in university. Are you kidding me? His head works that way. He can read a text. He doesn't have to underline anything, and he can write the exam by reading the text once. I can't do that. So I started to learn there was 3 ingredients that make a difference in everybody's life: emphasis, intensity, and repetition. Where are you putting the emphasis in your life? What's important to you? What's of value to you? And you got your own sense of why on the inside, and if your why is big enough, the how and the rest of it comes very easy if you know why you're doing it. Intensity is not force. Force doesn't work. Trash it, throw it in the garbage. You've got to have a garburator in your mind where you trash stuff and get rid of it. Force does not work. Whatever you try to force, the opposite takes place. It'll come back and smack you right in the face. Reinforcement works every time. Force never works. Intensity. That was in weightlifting and everything else. What's the intensity of it? It's not about doing work. It's about increasing intensity. And then repetitions. If you want your belief system to change, you have to use repetitions. Because the ideas are out there in the outside world. You take an idea from the outside world and you bring it into your inside world and you start to rehearse it. And I started to learn from my teachers, and Bob Proctor was the first one, but it went on after that. I went through 5,000 hours of seminars, 3,000 books. 3,000 books, and I have a struggle to read. For me to read more than 20 minutes, it hurts. It hurts. I can't do it. But what happens is nature always makes up for itself. My hearing increased. My eyes weren't there. My hearing increased. I do 85% of my learning is through my ears. The average person, they've got 85% of their learning through their eyes and about 14% through their ears, and the rest of it is taste, touch, and feel and all this other stuff. I'm the opposite of that. I learn 85% through my ears. I'm very good at listening. So I was a great student for the onstage presentation. So I went all over North America and some places in Europe and so on and so forth for seminars because I was really good at listening, and I'm really good at taking bullet points because that's the only thing important. There's a good point, put it down. There's a good point, put it down. If I don't put it down, it's not going to stick. See where I'm going with this? And so I got good at taking notes. That's how I got through high school. That's how I got my broker's license. And it had to do with target orientation, right? Targets. And when I took my broker's exam, there was 5 exams. I didn't want to do it. They made me do it. I was being promoted to district sales manager for Canada Permanent Trust in Toronto, blah, blah, blah. It was like a regional owner job. And they say, you got to have a broker's license to do this. So they pushed me, yanked me, and tugged me to do this. So being, a cocky young guy, I just took a position. I'm going to get 87% on all my exams. What? Excuse me? Oh, goody two-shoes. I don't think so. I set out purposely to get 87%. I targeted because everybody else is a bottom feeder. Everybody else says, what's a pass? I said, I want 87%. Pull from the air, 87%. I got 87 on 3 of my exams. I got 91 on another one and 93 on another one. And I'm not whatever anybody was ever considering a good student, okay? But I learned how to underline, I learned how to highlight, I learned how to take bullet points, I learned how to train me. Not training you, this is training me. This is the only way I can get anything to stick. Because I got to pass this test, I got to have a sense of know-how to get through here. And I got through it. And so target orientation started to become extremely important for me. And I was starting to get to know myself a little bit better. Now, as I proceeded through the courses and everything else, went through the Concept Therapy Institute through John Boyle in the United States and Canada went on for about 30, 35 years. Bob Proctor became a teacher of that, and then he spun off and did his own thing. I took all the course training. Nightingale took all that course training. We all took the same stuff. We were passing each other on airplanes and everything else because I had to know the answers. I got to know the answers because I was told I wasn't a good student. I was told, you're never going to make it, kid, And I had developed the physical side of my life, but I hadn't developed the intellectual side of my life. So I'm studying all this stuff, and I finally got to Boyle. And Boyle was the one that introduced the affirmation principle to me. You always get it from somebody else. Now, get this, because my mother was like a psychic, okay? She'd had a lot of problems in her life and everything else. My mother, working in the restaurant, Dr. McCurley is going to take his red sports car and get hit by a truck. 3 days later, he gets hit by a truck. Whoa. And we're living with this woman, okay? Whoa. So I'm sitting there saying there's something to this. The brain, the mind, and there's more portions to the mind, the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, the superconscious mind, and what does anybody know about it? So I said, that's my investigative. I want to know everything there is to know about that. And I've spent 50 years studying that from top to bottom, upside down and backwards. When I took Boyle's course and he taught me the affirmation principle, I learned about the present tense. There is no such thing as future or past. That's all a mind construct. The only part of life that you've got is this moment right now. That's all you got, and you don't have anything else. And what are you going to do with it? And it's not about push and kick and yank and slug. It's not about that. It's about you setting out to be the finest and best you can be to the point that you can go to sleep at night proud of yourself for what you did that day. If you got that down, you're living the impeccable life. Are you going to sleep at night proud of yourself for what you did that day? And now, can you rack and stack every day of your life like that, whereby you're proud of you? It's not about making somebody else proud of you. When I couldn't do anything for anybody else. They laughed at me. I come into this industry and say, I dreamed up this idea because I used my creative imagination. My mother was always with me. Use your imagination. And I looked at what was in this industry of how they ran the brokerage operations. Oh, one man in charge, one man or woman, And for a great degree in North America it was men, and now it's changing over to women. In the United States, it's about 70% female now. It didn't used to be. It is. It's changing. You know, the rhythms are changing. And one person, put it that way, one person in charge of the most important responsibility in the brokerage, which was bringing in the assets of the corporation, which are the real estate agents that generate all the frontline money that creates all the profit for the broker, and that person, 96% chance they're inhibited, can't do the job. Stupid way. I came in as a new set of eyes. I was in 3 industries. I got to know how people in 3 industries thought about stuff. That was a fabulous education. 11 years of that, better than any university education you ever got. Oh, listen. You know, even on the floor of the stock exchange with 450 guys, 6 years of that, if I never see another guy, it'd be too soon. You sit there and say, up to here, and testosterone and all the crap of men hanging together. When I looked at it, I saw who does all the work in our family? The women. My grandmothers were strong women. If you didn't show up for the birthday party, you got your butt kicked for 3 months after that. Watch out for grandma. She's got the wooden spoon. You only have to get whomped once with one of those. I can still feel it. They wouldn't put up with any guff. They were the nucleus of the atom, and the men were just the electrons going around the outside. And they were dying off at 63, 65 years of age, and the women went on to 80, 85, 90 years of age. They outlived them all. I don't know if you know it, but women end up with 77% of the world's wealth just through death and divorce. Who's playing this game to win? Who seems to be disposable? Who starts all the world wars? Who creates all the crap? Hello? Now, when you want to study it, because I study this stuff, because I became detail-oriented as I started to learn about myself, learn about the present tense, and I started to affirm, so I could actually become somebody and straighten myself out, platform in belief systems through repetition. I learned the repetitions from Dilly, throwing the ball. And, I went to the All-Ontarios and high bar and discus and track and field discus and shot. But guess what? I was the only kid in the entire high school. I took the discus and the shot put home every weekend for the field, the back of our house, to practice. Because I learned when I practice, I develop a very strong arm, and then the other kids didn't practice. I can outflank you 1,000,000 times on Sunday because I practice more than you. I affirm more than you. I affirm more than everybody in this room times 100. You're never going to catch up to me because it's so important for me to platform in belief systems. Every one of my affirmations is a 10 out of 10. You look inside of yourself, you got a 6 out of 10, a 4 out of 10, a 3 out of 10, a 7 out of 10. Mine are 10 out of 10. Absolute conviction. That's not force. That's absolute conviction because I practice it and practice it and practice it over and over and over. And I believe it to be true. Anything the mind of man can conceive of and believe in, he can achieve. It's not about conceiving of it so much. It's about believing in it. You are what you believe to be true. If you believe you got a rabbit foot that gives you good luck, that will work. If you believe in chiropractors will be able to help you. If you don't believe chiropractors will help you, you can go there 1,000 times, they'll never help you. Is that not true? Right? What you believe, it's about belief. Now that's etheric. Now if you're practically oriented and you got to be able to touch and feel it or you don't believe it, you got a problem. They're the hardest ones to coach. They're really practical. C temperaments are the hardest ones in the world to coach because they're like adobe huts. They're structured. I don't believe that. I can't see it. I can't touch it, so can't be true. And yet, guess what? Your thoughts and your feelings are etheric. They're not physical things you can touch. You can't do anything without thoughts. What is a thought? Let's go there. Hope I'm not boring anybody here. Now, if I said to you, no, this is a good question because you're thinking all the time, right? You think, hey, can't shut the sucker off. You sit there and say, what's a thought? And what would you tell me? No, think about it. What would you say? There's a definition for this. And when I say it to you, you're going to understand, yeah, that's the right definition. But you don't know what it is right now. You haven't got the foggiest idea what it is. I've done the homework because I always do my homework. Notice that's an affirmation. Yeah, I believe in being thorough. I got that from my father. I watched him from a distance. I couldn't get in close with him, but I learned a lot of stuff from him. He was good. He was detail-oriented, specific. He always got the job done well, totally success-oriented. He set a wonderful example. He never picked on me. If I got punished, it's only because he caught me inadvertently. I got away with 97% of it, baby. He caught me with 3%. He went to his grave trying to get me for the fourth percentage, but my mother was lastborn, and my father was firstborn. And the firstborn tried to catch me doing all the stuff I was doing, and he dumped some structure on me. He says, listen, you're responsible. He's taking my mom out on Saturday nights. They went through the war. They drank a lot of beer. They smoked a lot of cigarettes. They had orange fingers. You know what I'm talking about, orange fingers? Smoked a lot of cigarettes because even the doctor said that was good for you. What? And booze is good for you. What? Alcohol is poison. Your body hates it. But they made it taste good. They put a special name on there. It's brandy. And they got you doing it. But it's going to get you. We have one glass of wine at supper, and then before you know it's a glass and a half. Before you know it's 2 glasses. Before you know it, it's a bottle. Now you open up the second bottle. Nicotine, right? All the stuff that the government takes an override on is taking you straight to hell. And you're going for it. None of that's for your health. What part of this is for good health? Where are the intentions, right? Now, as we got into this with present tense thinking, here's 2 cases. Now, this might be functional to you, and I want it to be functional to you. But it was certainly for me. I had a couple of predicaments. Because my dad always had a couple of jobs going and everything else, and he was like a workaholic. Okay, we've heard that said before. I never intend on being a workaholic. Are you out of your mind? I get everybody else to do the work. Why the hell would I do that? I'm the stagecoach driver. Let the horses pull the wagon. As I watch my father, he's the hardest worker I've ever met in my entire life. My wife is the hardest woman I've ever met in my entire life. She works harder than I will ever work if I live to be 1,000. So these 2 people I hold in high esteem. He's now gone, 20 years gone. But he dumped some stuff on me. He said, as they walked out the door to go drinking that night, okay, drinking and smoking with my aunt and uncle, Dilly and Clara, you're responsible. He dumps it on me because I'm the oldest one. So when the kids were born, the different kids were born and everything else, I had to change diapers. Back when they had pins for diapers, okay, that kind of stuff. I changed so many diapers. By the time I was 14, it was just like, oh my God. And now this is my father speaking. You're responsible, no excuses. He dumped that on me so much, no excuses. I haven't got an excuse. I can't give you an excuse. If it doesn't go right, I cannot dream up some reason why it didn't go right, because my dad said there are no excuses. I got kids that can spin on a nickel. They can come up with 1,000 excuses in 20 seconds. I didn't pass it down to them. I got it dumped on me. I did not pass it down on them. It was conditioning. My mother said to me, and she said it many times, you can accomplish anything you put your mind on. That's a good one. My father, you're responsible, no excuses. You can see the conditioning, hammered, repetitions, hammered, and it's in there. But Dad's position, because he had to work the workaday world and everything else, clean up your plate. I'm not working all day long to throw that in the garbage. Well, I'm an independent spirit. I'm a wild child. I was a wild child in there. I got into lots of trouble and everything else because, everybody rejected me. Nobody thought I was acceptable and everything else. So I got away with a lot of murder. And I didn't show up on time because I didn't have a watch. And I really couldn't care less. I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. 3 peas on my plate. If I didn't eat it, I got the flat of his knife across my knuckles. And he'd make me sit there until I ate them. I'm not working all day long to throw that in the garbage. My position was this: Dad, it's going to go in the garbage whether it has to go through me to go to the garbage, straight into the garbage. It ends up in the garbage anyway. I'm so conditioned, unfortunately, he got at me when I was young. Hey, I'm so conditioned. It's conditioning. I am so conditioned that if it ends up on the plate, I feel a mandatory, compulsion that I've got to clean it up because my dad still lives in me. He's still talking to me from the grave, right? Clean up your plate. So now I have to take a smaller plate. Put it on a smaller plate, eat less. To try to, and now I'm to the point where I'm getting to the point, my wife has helped me out a little bit with this. We go to dinner the other night, and it was something really good, a bison, like casserole type of thing, and I got 2/3 of the way through it because I've been trying to cut back. I cut back 24 pounds to get here. I'm a little skinnier. And I'm going down, because I've been sort of heavier than lighter most of my life. And I used to be 5'8". I'm about 5'6" and a quarter, something like that. It's the pressure of the children. I'm shorter now than I was before. But at this age, 2 years from now, I'll be 80 years of age. 2 years, you sit there and say, hello. No. From my belly button up, I'm 35. A man's legs are not the first thing to go. So, some of the stuff works, some of the stuff doesn't work. Okay, I'm left with some stuff that still works. No, listen to me. If you never saw me, you never met me and everything else, but you just heard me talk, how old would I be? Do I sound like an 80-year-old? I don't think so. I still got some gumption here. There's a little bit of hostility in me because I earned it when I was a young kid through rejection. I got rejected so badly in grade 3 that rejection means nothing to me as an adult. You suffer from it. I got tortured to death as a child from them laughing at me. Right from day one. I got told, go out there and play. We're busy in here. If you're going to come in here, then roll up your sleeves and work. But other than that, use your imagination. So I got a pretty good creative imagination because my mom told me I had one. She says, you got that. Go do it and do it by yourself. So I do a lot of stuff by myself. Yeah. And so there's a lot of rub off. The people that are around you rub off on you. There's resonance factor, and some of it's acceptable, some of it's not. Right? And as a parent, has there not come a time in your life as a parent, there's lots of parents sitting here, when your kids were hanging around with the wrong kids? And you have to do the mother hen wing thing? I don't want you hanging around with him or her or whatever it is, or them. And eventually they're going to be individuals that got to run their own shop and they got to pay their own bills and all this other stuff, and that's what it's all about. But there's times when you have to be protective with regard to them. That's the responsibility part of it. And it's like running a real estate office. I always consider my administration one of the most important things in the entire brokerage. I still do. Anybody mucks with my secretaries, you're mucking with me. Now you got a serious problem. Into my office. Let's have a talk. Don't be hanging around the front desk. You got a problem, you talk to me. And I sat there and said, okay, from a brokerage standpoint, it became evident that if you're going to make this business work, it's all about replacing yourself with other individuals. Now that could, if you're a salesperson, you got to, you want buyers and sellers, and so on and so forth. You're hunting, and if you haven't got hunter brailled across your forehead, you're not even in the industry. You got to be hunting for good people, good systems, and good services all the time. I'm a hunter, and I'm hunting. And there's nothing more frustrating for a hunter that's not hunting. A real hunter wants, they've got blood dripping off their canine teeth. They just want another one. I want another one. Pop it, and big gaps in between don't fit. And the industry is full of big gaps in between. Isn't that the great frustrator? So when I dreamed up this system, I was in the insurance business, and I found that with life insurance, now get this. You say, where'd you get it? And the life insurance business was about telling stories and everything else and so on and so forth and policies. But the object of the exercise, if you sat there and said, where'd sponsoring come from? This is where it came from. It had nothing to do with multi-level marketing. I didn't even know multi-level marketing existed back in those days. But if I sold you an insurance policy with an annual premium, in other words, you're going to pay for it every year, and say it was a $100,000 life insurance policy and you're going to pay for it every year, blah, blah, blah. I sell it to you, I get paid. When you renew it, okay, and that's what it is, you make the next payment, right, for the next year, I get paid again. Do it again, I get paid again, and again, and again. I did the work once, I got paid over and over and over again, and they had the greatest salespeople in the entire world, bar none, and they kept them the longest because you could build a book of business with that, and you could retire on the book of business. You could sell the book of business later. It was perpetual payments. It was all based on perpetuality. The real estate industry was not like that. Sell a house, it's over with. Now go and look under rocks and behind trees for your next listing. So I came into the business as a new set of eyes. I took a look at that. You're expecting the manager to do this. Managers are not recruiting anybody. They suck. What? Key, are you in the room? They suck. Key, they suck. And they weren't hiring one a month. They were hiring like one person every 3 months. They were bringing like 6 people a year accidentally. The person walked into the office accidentally. They weren't proactively hunting anybody. Now, your average real estate agent in North America has a struggle to do one deal a month. A struggle. A lot of them are making 38 grand a year. Selling the largest product to the customer they ever buy for the biggest return on invested time known to man. Where are you going to make more money than that? Selling airplanes? They don't all buy airplanes, but they bloody well all want more real estate. Hey, do you own enough real estate? I don't think so. 95% of the world's wealth was with real estate. So when I watch this commission challenge through NAR transpire, here's a question for you, since you're in the industry. When was MLS first formed? There's a question for you. I asked our lawyer last night at dinner. Our accountant's sitting there, the CA, and they sat there and said, I think 1950. No, do you know when MLS was put together? 1885 in San Diego, California. 1885. MLS has been out there for 140 years, a totally cooperative system where we cooperated with each other to get the property sold because the listing agent's not going to have the buyer. There's less than a 5% chance they're going to double in the thing. And you need the other guys out there. You need other eyes and everything else dealing with buyers and everything. It works perfectly. We made tons of people millions upon millions of dollars with that system. And now they come in and argue with that and say it's collusion. You shouldn't be doing it that way. What? Now, stupid is as stupid does. No, really. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. I wish there was a lawyer that had some brass. Oh, no, try to find one that bellied up to the bar that took these clowns on by the horns because it's like a wrecking ball going through the industry. Okay, there's a storm. My talk was originally tailored, effectively negotiating choppy waters. Some serious choppy waters out there. Oh yeah. Some serious choppy waters with regard to the economic situation, the political situation, the financial situation of the Western continent. But it's a wonderful opportunity. Opportunities every place. If you study, the law of vibration, which is the basis of the law of attraction, and then there's 6 other laws that back up those, or 7 other laws that back up those. You're talking about crests and troughs. It's a rhythmical universe. Pulse on, pulse off universe. Sometimes the fish are jumping in the boat. We heard that the other day. Fish are jumping in the boat. Oh my gosh, isn't it wonderful, terrific? I don't even have to fish. They're just jumping in the boat. And there's other times when you have to fish. And that's a sheep from the goats. That's when the real realtors rise up to the occasion because they know how to hunt. They know how to fish. The rest of them don't know how to do it. So there are some tremendous challenges. There's no question about that. But it's a wonderful industry. I wouldn't be in any other industry. I went through 3 industries. I climbed through cut glass to get to this one. This does so much for the common person, the common family, raising children. And I came to the conclusion that females relate more to a home than men do. A man can relate to the house and putting it together, and it's just like myself. But if you want to come to our place, the only reason it's at home is because of my wife, Kathy. She just instantly knows exactly what to do next and everything else. Got an aptitude there. I don't have the same aptitude. I couldn't do it. But as a female, she understands raising children in the home environment, what that really means, birthday parties and everything else. If it was for men to have it, there'd never be another birthday party. There wouldn't be any Christmas. There would be nothing. There'd be dirty socks under the bed. That's it, baby. God loved the females of the universe. I love them. Thank you for being here. I spend 80% of my focus on that. It was male-dominated for 6,500 years. No longer. Women are rising to the occasion. Now, my challenges, I have two challenges I wanted to talk about, was this. I became a compulsively fast driver as a result of having to show up on time to be there for supper for my dad at, say, 5 o'clock, 5:30, whatever it was, because he had to go on to a second job and everything else. And if I wasn't there, his horns went down, and I got my butt kicked upside down and backwards. And as the tolerance decreased, the pain increased, and it became extremely painful if I didn't show up on time, and I didn't have a watch, and I couldn't care less. So I got my butt kicked. And as a result of that, I ended up stepping on the gas. I had a very strong right foot on the gas. I got into 3 car accidents, almost killed myself in the last one. And I realized at that point, if I don't stop driving this fast, I'm going to kill myself. I'm not going to be around here. I got to do something about this. I'm in charge of me. That's the only person I'm in charge of. I'm not in charge of you. You're not in charge of anybody else. You're not in control of anybody else. You're only in control of yourself. Control is designated to the individual, not the group. The world is screwed up today because everybody's trying to control everybody else. The medical society is trying to control you. Nutritional people are trying to control you. The government's trying to control you. Dentistry is trying to control you. They're all trying to control you. That's where the muck-up is. You're supposed to be in control of you. Now, I came to that conclusion. I'm only in control of me. Now, how well am I doing? And am I going to sleep at night proud of myself? Because yes, I trip and fall as much as anybody else. I make mistakes, and sometimes, the monster gets out of the cage because the wild child is still in there. And sometimes I say things and do things and say, geez, Bill Nasby and I don't know if you remember Bill. By the time he was 30, he was drunk for 15 years. Dead drunk and mean drunk. Mean drunk, mean, oh no, you got to know the difference. If I was to get drunk, and I'm not a drinker, I don't touch alcohol because I consider it poison. I'll have a sip, I'll participate once in a while with a little bit, but it's not food for me. I'm not better as a result of drinking. I'm worse as a result of drinking. So I don't drink, so Bill and I had a lot of talks, especially over the phone, especially in his later years, right to the end. And we talked about the animal getting out of the cage. He says, I got a bad animal living there. He says, I can't smell a cork. I can't smell a cork. He says, I go near a cork. And he says, I'm terrified of the addiction of it owning me, taking me over. I have no control whatsoever. The booze takes away all inhibitions. And I talked to him about my animal as being the young kid, the young brat that got away with murder because nobody loved me in the beginning. Heavy-duty conversations for guys, both of us over 70. He was well into his 80s. An interesting conversation. And sharing the wisdoms of life and everything else, what to do, what not to do. Every once in a while, the animal gets out of the cage. Got to keep the door locked, Every once in a while, it sneaks out. And you say something, do something or whatnot that you have to be apologetic for afterwards. Now, if I make a mistake, and sometimes that happens, if I make a mistake, I'm the first person to apologize. Sit there and say, no, that happened. I should never have done that. Line in the sand, that'll never happen again. And if you don't say it'll never happen again, the bull will still get out in the barnyard. Lock the door. It'll never happen again, because sometimes you trip over your own tongue. You do stuff with poison arrows. Never should have said that. Can never take that back. She'll never forgive me for that. You sit there and say, yeah, does it happen? Every once in a while. What are you trying to do? Get yourself in control as best you possibly can without force, to strengthen through reinforcement, strengthening yourself as best you can with the assets that you've got, taking into consideration that there's some liabilities there as well, right? It's not all perfect. But you aim at perfection expecting excellence. That's what you do, right? You got to get used to perfection, and you got to get used to excellence, because everybody says, well, you can always do better, Well, nobody's perfect, and they take this position that's not doable. No. Give me a break. There's stuff in your life that when you did it, you sat there and said, that was great, that was perfect, I pulled it off exactly the way I wanted it to go. That's perfection. That's perfection. Of course, you're achieving perfection all the time. It's not a non-doable thing. If you did it the way you wanted to do it, letter perfect, there's painters and stuff that they got to stop painting. You know, Michael Jackson was like that. He's such a perfectionist. And he kept doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. Got to do it again. Do it. Michael, it's finished. It's perfect. It's perfect. Don't go any farther, Michael. Excellence is just a reflection of all that, you know. So you start to get used to the idea that perfection is in your life on a daily basis. If you did it exactly the way you wanted to do it and you're happy with you, it's all about you being happy with you. It's not about you trying to make somebody else happy with you. If you're happy with you, you can count on the fact that anybody that's important to you in your life is going to be happy with you as a reflection. It's just natural. It's resonance. You know, birds of a feather flock together. And the rest of them don't count. So you sit there and say, no, this is my world, this is my tethering, you know, this is my following, this is my following, right? This is my belief system. Now you can tell, since I used a 4-letter word with regard to the name of the company, I have a lot of 4-letter words in my language. Love, cash, exit, and the rest of them you don't want to hear. Because I use language whichever way, if I have to put emphasis on something because it's that 5-minute rule. You know, what did he say the other day on the first day? 5-minute rule. Explode for 5 minutes. Let it out. Get it off your chest. Get it off your chest. And believe me, I do. And you'll hear some 4-letter expletives coming out of my mouth that you don't want to hear. Because I was raised on the floor of the stock exchange. I got a bad tongue in my mouth, but I try to keep it in control as best I can. And dump it off so that the explosions are not going on in the inside of me, because the bombs are going to go off whether they go off on the outside of you or the inside of you. If you keep your mouth shut all the time, you suppress that, it'll go off on the inside of you. You'll end up with cancer. You'll end up with a heart attack. You'll end up very sick because you didn't get it off your chest. Very important to do that, because life is not easy. It's not. There's some holes in the road. You know, you're driving down the road and it's a bumpity bump. Yeah, it's not easy. But you're driving your Lamborghini and you're downtown and the market's not just exactly right, but you can't go 80 miles an hour between the stoplights in your Lamborghini. Come on. And you're frustrated. My car doesn't even like this. No, you want to get out in the thoroughfare, step on the gas and let's go, baby. That's what I want to do. Yeah, the market will return. Is there daylight at the end of all of this? Yes, there is. But we got to go through the swamp to get to the mountain. I'm suggesting this. I think there's going to be some, this is going to be a test of your character. Personality is just that mask. It's persona. It comes from Greek. The mask you put on to the bank manager that won't give you the loan, or your grandmother, or to the kids, you put on a different mask with your personality. But your character is that block of steel that's in the inside of your guts that rises up only when the chips are down. Who are you when the chips are down? Most people go masochistic or they go sadistic. They either pick on themselves, oh my God, I'll never sell another house, or the manager's always on the golf course, the secretary's got bad breath, and I don't like the color of the wallpaper. No wonder I'm not selling any real estate. Blame them or blame me. It's not about blame. Take blame and trash it. Trash it. Everybody does the best they can with what they got to work with. What do they have you around for? Sometimes you can help. Sometimes you can be, the conciliary. You can pass down some wisdom out of communication, effective communication. When times are tough, some of our regional owners and everything else, sometimes the only thing you can do, because the brokers are having a tough time and the storm goes through Florida and all of a sudden we've got 5 offices left and they're getting kicked to crap because of this hurricane thing in North Carolina. It looks like a nuclear bomb drop. And you sit there and say, stay close to them. Sometimes you can only maybe talk to them, have a lunch with them, support them, and be the visiting uncle. Be the visiting uncle. Now, affirmations, because I was a fast driver, I keep coming back to this, but I never get at it. Sooner or later, I'm going to get at this. I have a way of looping things back. I come back. I was a fast driver. I was going to kill myself. How to get out of it? Well, I went the John Boyle stuff. He taught me, and I thought, here I am in this. This is an interesting story. You don't have to believe it if you don't want to, but I witnessed it. I was there. 4-day sleepover course. You had to earn a certain amount of money to go to that course. Okay, it was one of those qualifier things. In the course, there was 40 people. It included the San Diego Police Department, with the captain of the San Diego Police Department in there. And Boyle who had one of his thumbs chopped off, so he was his thumb like this, but he just stand there very calmly. He didn't put intensity into his presentation. He didn't use octave and so on and so forth. He just said words. He just said words very calmly. You either got it or you didn't get it. You had to come to his level. He was not going to yours, right? Excellent teacher, but you had to resonate with him. And the question came up about lie detectors. This is very interesting. The captain of the San Diego Police Department, because it came up as a topic, and he says, we don't do that conventionally like you would think of the use of a lie detector. We haven't done it for 20 years. And John said, what do you do? He said, well, all we want to know is whether or not the person's lying. It probably won't hold up in court because a lot of people know how to beat a lie detector. They're trained to beat a lie detector, right? So we do it a little bit differently. What do? We have a plant of split-leaf philodendron behind the chair that the person's sitting in, and we wire the split-leaf philodendron with the lie detector equipment, and the plant tells us whether or not the guy's lying. Oh, am I perking up at this point? My ears are singing at this point. They're ringing. Excuse me? I'm starting to realize from the law of vibration and everything else, there's a lot of stuff going on. Plants are vibratory. The earth is vibratory. Everything is vibratory. Water is vibratory. The study of water. Put words around bottles of water and everything else, and the crystallization of the water and everything else will change according to the definition of the word. Everything is vibratory. Everything is vibratory. You're radiating vibrations with your thoughts. You are what you think about all day long. The avatars have been saying this to us down through history with this. Wow. All we want to know is if the guy's lying. The plant will tell us that. And we've done it for 20 years. Wow. And so I'm learning a lot of stuff about the universe. So I'm sitting there saying, what becomes the main consideration as me as an individual? I want to know about the meaning of life. I want to know everything about. So I've got 12 subjects that I study now from a kid that never was a student. And I have a hard time reading a little bit, but I listen pretty good. And you sit there and say, it all comes back, and it's not that I'm studying this stuff every day, but then that one fits into that slot. That's good. That fits into that slot. I've got these different subjects that I'm interested in. Human psychology is one of them. Selling people the way they want to be sold is one of them. I truly believe that the real estate product's the finest product you could sell to another human being. And I don't believe you own enough of it. I think you'd be better off if you own more as time went on. And that should be in your consideration. You're never going to get rich as a result of selling real estate or running a real estate office. I've never met a person yet that ever got rich as a result of that. But you can get rich as a result of the ownership of the product. Oh, for sure. And you can get rich as a result of sponsoring. Absolutely. Sponsoring gives you leverage that you never had before. Leverage as a real estate agent. Because it's all about you. It's only been about you. And there's gaps in between the paychecks and so on and so forth. The markets come and they go and everything else. You have good markets and bad markets and good years and bad years, and sometimes you get behind in your taxes and all this other stuff. But you could use this system for tapping into the energies of others. This is a 21st century company. Every other company in the world, in real estate, around the world, is a 20th century company. All based on the individual doing what they've done for the last 140 years on MLS. This is the first company ever, and I got it from another industry. I extrapolated, so exit means something different to me than it means to you. EX is extrapolation. That means you take it from one system to another system. It wasn't here before. I took it from that system. I put it in. Everybody said you couldn't do it. I did it. I knew how to do it. And so EXIT means EX, extrapolated informational technology. That's what exit is to me. Nothing but informational technology, Ask our tech people. Informational technology, that's what it is. Now the question is whether or not you get the message, because you could be sitting there and you didn't get it yet. Once you sponsor somebody in, and let's face facts, here's how it goes. A person's walking across the street. I'm standing with you, and I say, is that a realtor? Yeah. Within 5 years, how old would that person be? Probably 30, maybe 35. Okay, we'll say it's 30. Any good? Yeah, I'm making 175, doing good. He's been around for about 8 years, ever since the early days, and pretty good agent. Yeah. Oh, Well, what you're telling me is not going back to McDonald's. He's not going back to the bank. He can't make that kind of money anyplace else. He's going to stay in the real estate industry. Is that not true? He's not going anywhere. He's going to stay in the industry. And he's probably going to be here until he's 65, maybe later. Okay? He's 30. He's going to stay till he's 65. That's 35 more years. 35 more years. And how much do you get if you take one signature and sponsor him into the company? Right? 10% off the top for as long as they stay with the company, 7% retirement program, 5% beneficiary benefit. Could you do anything with that? 10% off the top. Wow, 10 grand. He's 30. He's going to stay for 35 years. That's $350,000 of cash flow walking across the street. $350,000 of cash flow. You got to sell a lot of real estate to have $350,000 based on the closings of his transactions. It's real money. It's not multi-level marketing crap. This is real money. When the deal closes, you're going to have the money put in your bank. As a result of that, within probably 3 days, be notified of all that and everything else, $350,000. Now, if you spend time focusing on that, you already know how many listings you got to take to pay your bills. You already know how many deals you got to put together. You already know whether or not you ever put a double-ender together. You know that, and you're either good at it or you're not. Because you haven't, at this point, maybe haven't made up your mind. Now, I'm saying I'm not preaching to the choir. There's champions in here. I will never discount that. There's people in here that know how to do that better than I've ever done it in my life. And we certainly appreciate every one of you for that. But the point of the matter is, maybe not so much with sponsoring. What if you focus your mind? It's focus and concentration. How did I get where I am right now? Focus and concentration on what works. Keep away from what doesn't work. This works. It's the finest invention. And, I'm not flapping my own wings here, but if you look at all the other systems, and I know the other systems, it's the finest. I just happen to be the conduit for the flow of this information coming into this industry, so I'm so thankful and grateful for that because, as a bit of a rogue, I was independent, I was hard-headed, and I said, what the hell, why don't we do this? And everybody else said, that'll never work. Yeah, they said the electric light bulb will never work. Automobiles will never work. They'll never replace the horse and carriage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You bring in one a month. You got over $3 million worth of cash flow going to your bank account. Do you feel more secure now? One a month. You're dealing with strangers on a daily basis. You sold your grandmother, you sold your cousin. Now it's strangers from that point forward, and you're either good with that or not. And you deal with ho-hum buyers that you put in your back seat. Oh, do you like that one? Oh, grunt, grunt, grunt. You sit there and say, hey, I've been there, done that, baby. Now, you sit there and say, you go after good real estate agents. You only need 4 minutes. The 4-minute million. If you can't tell the story, that cartoon tells the story. You should be selling that, showing that cartoon to people that run the hardware store, to your grandmother, to your cousin, everybody you know, and say, this is what I do for a living. Even an egg takes 3 minutes. You got 4 minutes. Sit down, I'll buy you coffee. If you don't like it, handshake and a hug, and you're on your way. I'm not trying to gaff you into the boat. There's not going to be any blood in the rug, but I just want to know, have you understand how this works? That tells you exactly how it works, word for word. We put it in cartoon form. I took a look at this. I said, if they can't tell the story, have the story tell the story, right? And we put it in cartoon. 4 minutes, the 4-minute million. Now, are you using that, or you just put it aside? Have you got access to that, or did you just put it aside? When are you going to get fed up with being average? When are you going to focus on exceptional? Born to be exceptional, conditioned to be average. I was conditioned by other people. Fortunately, despite the antagonisms and everything else, some of the information was very good. They kicked my butt pretty good, but they dumped some good ones on me, and I hung tough with that, and sometimes it's just a little sentence. You can be anything you want, whatever you put your mind on, kiddo. You can. It doesn't matter your eyes don't work so well. Your ears work pretty good. And I made that work. Now, we've designed this to be the largest and most productively successful real estate company in the entire world, bar none, and I'm not finished with that. Thank you very much. It's not a one-man team. You don't have to worry about my gumption, my grit, or my gall. You don't have to worry about that. I wind up my key. I do more rehearsals on a daily basis than you're ever going to do. Ask my wife. He's in there talking to himself. That's the way it goes. Now, self-talk is a wonderful thing. And so In the beginning, when I assessed my life, I look back over the first half of my life, and I know I made a lot of mistakes. And so I assessed it, and I started to analyze myself skeptically as to why I made the mistakes. And the question was this. And I've got this maybe doesn't make any sense to you, but it's one of the filters that I use. I've studied astrology, I've studied numerology, I studied psychics for 50 years. I'm just naturally nosy. I stick my nose wherever, if it looks like it works, and it's been around for thousands of years, I pay attention to it, and I got tools. I got lots of tools. Tools that other people don't have. And I got a lot of Libra in my setup. I've got 4 planets in Leo and 4 planets in Libra, and 1 in Aries and 1 in Gemini. So I'm just fire and air. But Libra sees, it's the scales of justice, sees both sides so equally. Sometimes it has a hard time coming to a conclusion. It's a communicative sign, but sometimes it has a hard time coming to a conclusion. So the question was this: if I made the mistake, did I make a mistake as a wrong choice, or did I make the mistake because I sat on the fence and didn't make a choice at all? You know what the answer was? I sat on the fence too long. I'm looking at my whole life halfway back. I sat on the fence too long. So I needed an affirmation to cure that. Now, every person in this room's got one thing wrong with them right now, and if we cured that one thing, your life would change dramatically. This changed my whole life. I'm effectively decisive. I took that and I started off with the toothbrush thing, okay? I'm going to hook it up to a ritual that I do every day, typically brush my teeth twice a day. Mom always wanted 3 times a day, but twice a day. And I hooked it up, and I'd say it to myself 3 times, looking in the mirror, I'm effectively decisive, I'm effectively decisive, I am effectively decisive. Now I have permission to brush my teeth. Twice a day for 30 days. Now, that is one of the strongest assets that I've got going for me. It wasn't there before. I took it from the outside world, I put it in the inside world, but it took rehearsal. It took the present tense. I had to do the work. Now I got it. I didn't have it before. It was screwing up my whole life. I'll never screw up my life ever again. Now, to stop myself from being a fast driver because they conditioned me to be on time or I was going to get my butt kicked, here's the affirmation. This is how I road tested John Boyle's information in the first place. This is how I proved affirmations are absolutely invaluable. And I took the one thing, I said, if this works, I'm going to put it on one thing. I'm just going to focus on one thing, not a whole bunch of things, just one thing, and I'm going to work at it diligently and competently. I can be on time if I want to, but I don't have to. 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks, I was showing up late every place I went. People were complaining. What is this? There used to be black tire marks in the driveway because you were arriving, Now you're not even showing up on time. Then I realized, it's good to be on time. It's not good to have to be on time. See, there was compulsion in there because they put pain. It's a negative habit pattern. It's a pain-related habit pattern. They put pain around that idea. If I don't show up in time, I'm going to get my head kicked in. I had to rearrange the furniture. So I give myself permission. I put in a new roadway, and the roadway was, I can be on time if I want to, but I don't have to. 2.5 weeks, I set myself free. Kundalini freedom, baby. I was free at that point. Now I had to put in something about being prompt and punctual because it's polite to be prompt and punctual. I went too far in the other direction, so I put in prompt and punctual. And I realized this stuff works. Now, if it's good for me, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. I figured if this is good for me, it's got to be good for everybody else. Where do you think prompter came from? It was that idea. It was give them something that they can at least get started. It's 3 minutes a day. Have you got 3 minutes in your life? Are you not doing prompter? That starts you on the greatest path of your life to straighten it out, start putting in the affirmations. Just write it, send it in. Write it, send it in. You sit there and say, your whole life will change. Your kids' lives will change. It's the finest thing you can do is instead of just doing prayers at night with your kids, if you do that, do affirmations with them. That's what we did with our last kids. He sat there and said, it just worked remarkably well. And I'm experimental by nature, so, we did all that. So there's 2 blessings here, and I'm thankful and grateful for being, like I say, the conduit for the flow of these 2 blessings. One, from the standpoint of life quality. Life quality is the affirmation principle. It's really the assumptive principle. You assume the position to become the position. Affirmations are just bullets for that gun. It gives definition. It's deliberate intention. That's what an affirmation is, deliberate intention, short, positive, constructive idea, repetitively over and over and over again to the point you become the idea. If you want to be more efficient, you become more efficient. Now, I was dealing with a young guy last night. I don't remember his name, but he came over and he wanted a few consultations about this and that and everything else. I love dealing with the younger ones because they got so much life to go. And so I'm poking around, and he's pretty good at things. He's in the top. For under 25, he's the top guy. And so he's doing a lot of stuff right. But I finally, through effective questions, which is not interrogation, it's not intimidation or interrogation, because I don't believe in either one of those. But I'm asking him questions. I said, are you any good with presentations? And he said, no, I'm not. So I said, oh, see, there's the door. I said, you want to be? Do you want to be? I said, imagine if you were good with presentations. Imagine if you're bulletproof with presentations. Imagine if you made absolutely excellent presentations. And it could be on stage, it could be just behind closed doors, whatever it is, excellent presentation. And so he's eager to learn and whatnot. I says, okay, look me in the eye. And I says, okay, look me in the eye, don't blink, look at my left eye, because when you're dealing with a man, you always look at his left eye. That's the doorway to the subconscious mind in a man, is his left eye. Look at my left eye, do not blink, and say this 3 times without blinking. Now, the first couple of times he said it, he blinked. I said, you blink, start over. You blink, start over. Come on, follow instructions. I know you're an agent. It's very I always make excellent presentations. Now say it 3 times. I always make excellent presentations. I always make excellent presentations. I always make excellent presentations. There's a little bit of Tesla there. You always do things in 3s. Right? Hook it up to your brushing of your teeth. You brush your teeth. He said 3 times a day. I said, really? You do 3 times? Most people know. 3 times a day. Okay, 3 times a day. And, 3 weeks is how you pass the test. But go a month. Do 1 month, of this. And I said, watch what happens. Because your higher self is 10 out of 10 in every category, is already inside of you. It's just that you've tripped and fallen, made mistakes in your life and everything else. You've come to doubt who you really are. That's the problem. You're 10 out of 10 in everything in there, but you just have to realign yourself with your higher self by assuming the position that you are this thing, and you come into complete alignment. So if he follows instructions, a month from now, all of a sudden what he's going to find out is the universe is aligned with his individual self. The conscious, this is your architect up here. This is your contractor down here. This is where you feel things. This is when you put your guts into it. When you feel good about it, you put your heart into it. If your heart's not in it, it's not going to get done right. This is a blueprinting machine. This creates blueprints. That's all this does. There's no feeling factor up here. This is where you think. This is where you feel. How you feel about it is the whole thing. It's the heart of hearts, the subconscious mind. How you feel about your life, how you feel about your people, how you feel about your business. If you say you love the business on a regular basis, you'll come to love the business from every possible angle. If you sit there saying, I hate this damn business, it's going to develop momentum, right? It's going to go whichever way you want it because it listens to you talk. It listens to you think and talk on a daily basis and thinks that's what you want. So it executes your thinking into reality. This is an executive machine. This is originative. This is executive. It executively shoots out everything through your body. That's where the physicality comes into, in accordance to how you feel about it. How did the job get done? It's all about how the person feels about it. Are you passionate? What if you were? I live my life passionately, one day at a time. What if that was your affirmation? It's one of mine. I got 1,800 of them in here. 10 out of 10, every one of them. Unshakable. Why? Because I've rehearsed them for 50 years. Did you ever, you're not even 50 years of age, most of you. You sit there and say, did you ever rehearse anything for 50 solid years, every day? Yeah, that's Magic Johnson shooting hoops, 500 every day. That's Andre Agassi hitting that ball over there, 500 every day. That's what champions do. Champions rehearse, the rest of them don't. Affirmations are how you rehearse you. The most precious thing you've got, you're nothing but special and precious, top to bottom, of absolute value. But sometimes you start to self-doubt. The only reason you ever failed and tripped and fell in anything was you started to doubt yourself. But with affirmations, you get rid of all self-doubt. You reinforce is all reinforcement. You say it as if you meant it. When you look yourself in the eye and you're brushing it just before you brush your teeth and you say, you're an actor on stage, you want to win the Academy Award. If you put it across the way you should with absolute feeling, you sit there and say, it's like, I like myself unconditionally. Most people have a hard time saying that. They haven't even gotten that close yet. I love myself unconditionally. You know, I'm likable, I'm lovable. Haven't even come to that position yet. Never assumed that position. What if you did? What if you did? What if you started to put some of the stuff there? It's all in prompter. It's all there. 3 minutes a day, and you can change your whole life. Now, it's on your plate. We can't force you to do it. Can't make a horse drink. But I've been the conduit for the affirmation principle to get that up and running. Brian Tracy didn't even start doing it until 1984. He took the same course I did, but he put it into place 11 years later. And Mike Ferry in 1993, and now it's all over the place. And this guy, Hal Elrod, I said, I introduced it to the industry in 1976. I said, you were born in 1979. It was introduced 3 years before you were even born, man. And we had a good laugh about that. Because he's doing it. Here's a young buck that knows how to talk. Did you see him look at a note? See, when you know, you don't have to look at notes. You don't have to look at the paper. Did you see me look at a note? Do I have to have a backdrop of words back there to tell you what No, it's in here. The only thing I can give you is what I got. I can't give you something I haven't got. This is inside of me. And so when we do suggestology, which I want to do now, I'm going to stretch the envelope a little bit. I said I would be earlier. I warned you. I want to do a suggestology here with you. We're going to affirm together. People pray together. I want to affirm together with you. You know, there's been some intensity with regard to this. I'm tired, so, forgive me. We're going to go to a different platform now. And if you can just follow instructions, okay, it's easy. It's easy stuff. I'm going to do the talking, you do the listening. It's like baseball. I'm going to throw the ball, you catch the ball. Then I'll throw another ball, you catch the ball, put it down. And I'll throw another ball, you catch the ball. And I'm going to go sometimes fast, sometimes slow, right? And I'm going to entertain affirmations. It's going to be all in the present tense. And I'm going to put you in the present tense. You're going to be in the present tense longer than you've ever been in your entire life, probably, if you've never done this. And I want you to take your little hypocrite that lives on the inside, which is like a traffic cop, that road guards everything that's on the inside based on what's coming in the outside world. If it doesn't fit what's on the inside world, it rejects it, right? So, I don't believe in that. No. This is, you just sit there and from an agreement standpoint of saying, I'm going to take my little traffic cop and just ask him or her to sit in a little chair beside you in a state of abeyance and say, no, allow this to transpire because this is what I want it to be. I might be a 6 out of 10, but I want it to be a 10 out of 10, right? Or it might not be in there at all. Just allow it to transpire. It's all positive, constructive, and creative. It's all for your self-improvement. And we're all going to enjoy it together as a group in a deep state of relaxation, because at this moment, before we dance till we drop tonight, you need a little relaxation, okay? So we're going to put you into a deep state of relaxation, and you allow that to transpire. You don't make it happen. You allow it to transpire. So here's what I want you to do. Here are the instructions. You're going to do this with your eyes closed, okay? Some of the time I'll have my eyes closed, and which is kind of silly when they film it and they play it on YouTube and I've got my eyes closed. Everybody says, he's asleep. What's going on here? But, I'm aligning myself with those ideas because they're inside of me. So it's like I brought a transport truck with my goods to your store and you open up the gate and I'm going to take the stuff that's on my truck and put it onto your shelves, okay? It's already in me, okay? I can't give you something I haven't got. It's already in me. I'm just giving you stuff I've already got that I consider of absolute value. So I want you to close your eyes, put your feet flat on the floor, okay? Nothing crossed, no hands crossed or anything like that. Feet flat on the floor in a comfortable position, preferably with your hands on your lap like this, and just listen. And all you're going to hear is the sound of my voice. Okay, so, go there. Eyes closed. Here we go. Now this involves what I say earlier, creative imagination. Creative imagination. So the two of us, it's just you and me. We're both in the same room together. We leave this room. We walk out into another room. And in that room, there's a high-speed elevator. We're standing in front of the elevator now. I'm standing to your right. We look up above the elevator, and it has a sign with large font, black on white, and it says high-speed elevator. And I reach across, and I push the button for the elevator, and the doors to the elevator open. And as you gaze inside the elevator, you notice that it's white. The walls are white, the ceiling's white, the floor is white. It's quite a large elevator. The two of us proceed to step into that elevator, and we turn. As we turn, the doors to the elevator close, and I'm on your left side now. And it seems quite comfortable. Now, this is your elevator. It's not my elevator. I'm just the operator. So what I do is I reach across and I push the button for the basement. We're now in the penthouse, so we're going to go to the basement. But it did say high-speed elevator, so this one's going to go very fast. And it's going to go over a long distance of time. It's like we're going from the surface of the earth into the center of the earth at the speed of light. But it's picking up an acceleration now. But what you notice is that all the tension, anxiety, and stress and angst that's any place in your body right now is starting to dissipate and disappear. It's now starting to pick up and go faster and faster and faster. We're starting to go at full speed now. And you're simply becoming more comfortable and more relaxed than ever before. You're simply releasing and letting go of all that tension down through your neck, your shoulders, your arms, your chest, your back, your tummy area, your butt area, down through your thighs, your thigh biceps, your calves, your knee joints, down to your ankles, your feet. Everything is becoming extremely relaxed, and yet we're going faster and faster and deeper down this elevator shaft, and we're going into the depths of your subconscious mind. The deepest part of you, the most powerful part of you, we're going into the depths of your subconscious mind. And somehow it just seems to get more comfortable as we do it deeper and deeper, faster and faster, right to the center of the earth. Fabulous. Arriving, slowing down completely, stopped. And now there's a back door to the elevator. The back door is opening up completely. And because we're using our creative imagination, you're in the chair that you're in now, because everything's possible here in the subconscious mind. You're in the chair that you're in now, totally relaxed. It's a swivel chair, and you simply swivel it around and point it toward the back door of the elevator, and that leads into the computer system that's on the inside of you, the subconscious computer system, where all the stored memories of a lifetime are, where your habit departments are, and all your belief systems are in there and everything else. And I'm going to go in as the operator. It's just like a mechanic. You brought your car in to get it repaired, and that person has to lift the hood and do the various repairs. The noise, it makes a noise. The engine's not working properly and everything else. You sit in the other room and wait for it to be happening and whatnot. Okay, it'll be fixed by 4 o'clock. Okay, no problem. Well, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to enter into that room. You're not going to go with me. You're sitting on your swivel chair, but you can see me, and you can see everything that I'm about to do. Now, I'm in that room now, and I've got my psychological screwdriver, everything that I need, because I'm going to tighten up some loose screws, And this is all about self-improvement. This is about making you better than you've ever been before. And what to do this property, I'm going to go into the present tense, stay in the present tense perpetually throughout the distance of this, and do some repairs. It's all about the meaning of life. It's about who you are, who you want to be, who you could be if you really tried. All about words. Words are conduits for the flow of intention. We're simply going to put special meaning behind all those words in a positive, constructive, and creative way. And you're going to automatically self-improve. Now, this is the same as planting acorns in a garden on good ground. Now, as you'll notice as I speak, with every word that I speak, your body is just going deeper and deeper and deeper into relaxation to the point you can't even feel where your feet are anymore. It doesn't really matter. You're just listening to your words. You've forgotten about everybody else in this room. You're just focused on the words that I'm saying because the words have absolute meaning. This is giving your life more meaning than ever before. And it's comfortable. It's relaxed. Okay. These are acorns that we're planting on good ground. Now, we know with acorns that there is the blueprint of the oak tree inside of an acorn. And as we plant the acorns, and that's each affirmation is like an acorn, as we plant it on good ground, which is you in a state of relaxation, we plant it into the depths of your subconscious mind, that each one of them is going to grow. And, the elixirs inside the acorn and with the earth that's been planted on are going to get together. And before you know it, roots are going to be planted. And before you know it, each one of those ideas are going to grow into a full oak tree. And that's exactly what's going to happen with each one of these ideas. They're going to manifest into complete reality, full self-expression, a very comfortable way. It's not going to hurt a bit. And you're just simply going to get better and better and better as a result of that. Self-improvement all over the place. So we go into the present tense, and we use the assumptive principle, just automatically assume a position as a 10 out of 10 position with absolute faith, absolute undaunted faith, and plant these idea seeds. And I'm going to say you are, And if you were to do it yourself, you'd say, I am, and you are, and I am is exactly the same thing. Your subconscious mind interprets it exactly the same way. When you were a child, they say, you are this, you are that. And when you grow up, you said, I am this, I am that. It means exactly the same thing to your subconscious mind. And I can't give you anything I haven't got. So what I'm going to give you right now, and what we're going to do now, is the elixirs that are going to be pumped into your subconscious mind are stuff that I consider precious, absolute precious. Every one of these ideas is precious. Now, you're healthy, strong, and vibrant. Healthy, wise, and loving. You're generous and giving. You're totally supportive. You're well reinforced on the inside. You've got tremendous powers of initiative. You initiate and finalize with great skill and effectiveness. Yes. You keep in contact. You follow up and follow through absolutely perfectly. You finish everything you start in an impeccable way by crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's, and tying everything into a bow, knowing and understanding they're in the people business. So everybody you deal with, you make them feel good about themselves, because when people feel good about themselves, you always get the most and the best out of other people when they feel good about themselves, and you've come to realize that, yes. And you're starting to become good to yourself like never before. Now, when you're in your automobile, you drive carefully, safely, soundly, and securely, accident-free, incident-free, ticket-free. You know? And, you know, you're totally subliminal and invisible to all police, military, CIA, FBI, and Secret Service, and any other government agency that exists anyplace. They're always busy elsewhere. They pay no attention to you whatsoever. You're allowed to come and go as you see fit, and you choose wisely, effectively, successfully, and strategically accordingly. You clear customs easily, comfortably, and effectively. Yeah, you always remember to take everything important with you when you go. And you've got a superb memory. In fact, your memory is improving on a daily basis, and you focus your mind on what's most important, relevant, and pertinent. You're logical, rational, practical, and prudent in wonderful ways. You're well organized in everything you do. You've got excellent organizational skills. You're highly intuitive. You use your intuitions to your best advantage. Your intuitions serve you well. You connect all the dots in the finest and best way possible. You position yourself strategically to win. You like to play to win. You know, you simply outflank the competition in every area of their endeavor in the finest and best way possible, and you enjoy every moment of it. You're a people person of the finest order. Yeah, you sell people the way they want to be sold. You sell them on themselves, and you've come to realize that it's all done with conviction. And you're convincing because you've got absolute conviction. Yeah. And you're a real estate person. You know, you've got your various positions in the real estate, but you might be in tech. You know, you might be an administrator. You could be a salesperson, or, you know, a sales manager, a broker owner, or a regional owner, whatever it is. But you've come to understand that with your strategies, you're a wonderful strategist, and you use your strategies to your best advantage. And you originate and execute in the finest and best way possible. And you're now living your life passionately, one day at a time. In fact, you know, you're enthusiastic about everything you're doing. You're joyful and cheerful. Joy is that feeling that all things are possible. Now, joy fills up every cell in your body. You've got 50 trillion cells, 100 billion brain cells approximately. Every cell in your body is completely filled with joy. And that all things are possible if you put your mind on it. You can do anything that you put your mind on in a comfortable way, a pleasant way. And, you know, you're constantly learning. Your mind is absorbent. Your mind, body, and being are wide open to good learning. So you listen carefully, you pay close attention, and you're well focused. You focus your mind on what's most important, relevant, and pertinent. Yeah. And, you know, you like to go to sleep at night, sleep deeply and profoundly, and always achieving ample delta sleep, which is 1 to 3 cycles per second. That's just a Hertz measurement. And so you get that physical repair. And then you like dreaming sleep, you know, and that's theta. Theta dreaming sleep is 4 to 7 cycles per second. And, you know, you always have wonderful dreams, and you like to wake up in the morning refreshed and ready for a good day. Yeah. You're starting to pay more attention now to your nutrition, and understanding that, you know, you have to be quite particular about what you eat today, but you focus your mind on the right proteins and carbohydrates and fats, and try to keep away from the junk food as well as possible, and do things that are, you know, productive and constructive and creative with regard to the development of your body. Your body is very important. Now, whether or not you've ever exercised in your life before, or whether you do it on a regular basis, you like and enjoy doing it, because there's always something there that you like to do. It could be just walking the dog. That's okay. But movement, your body's designed for movement, and it requires that. So you're doing whatever's necessary. Not too much, just enough. It's about perfect measure and perfect timing, right? And it's not about gluttony. Gluttony is useless. Now, what we've got is built into this computer system on the inside of you is a carburetor. Now, it's an Italian carburetor with a special name, and it's an Italian name that you're not going to hear anyplace else, and we're going to nickname it Garbaggio, Okay, garbaggio is your Italian carburetor, and you know what happens with a carburetor? If you put some junk and garbage in a carburetor, you turn on the water, hit the button, it's gone. You can't get it back. It's gone. So if it goes into the carburetor, it's automatically eradicated from your life completely because it's necessary to edit. You do that in your kitchen, right? If there's junk and garbage in your kitchen, you get rid of it, right? Throw it in the garbage. Got a garbage pail, and it's the same thing here. And you become, as time goes on, you're becoming a better editor than ever before. It's not just about input, it's about editing as well. Sometimes you've got to, clean out the fridge, right, at home. And you're not going to put another piece of celery in there because it's going to be destroyed as a result of the junk and garbage that's in there. Now notice where your body's gone. Your body's in a total state of rest. Now I'm going to count from 5 to 0. When I get to 0, your body's going to go 5 times deeper than it is right now. You don't have to do a thing. It's just automatically going to happen with my words. Every time I say a word, it's going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Drop down 5 times deeper. Comfortable, relaxed, fabulous. Every one of these seeds is being planted. Every one of these seeds is growing into an oak tree. You're becoming stronger and stronger, and yet gentle, strong at every level, and well-balanced, well-coordinated intellectually, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and psychologically, feeling really good about yourself. You're now in a position to say to yourself, I like myself unconditionally, I love myself unconditionally, and you're lovable. And the kind of love that you're experiencing from this point forward is no longer conditional love. Conditional love doesn't work. That's why marriages break up. If you give me what I want, I'll give you what you want. That's why they don't work. Unconditional love, it's unconditional. So that's what you're experiencing from this point forward is an abundance of unlimited unconditional love. And, but you're developing a sense of patience before because you've found that impatience has gotten you into trouble from time to time. You're now becoming patiently persistent and consistent. You think clearly, speak clearly, enunciate perfectly. You've got an excellent command of the English language, but you might have other languages as well. Home languages, could be Spanish, could be French, could be any numerous amounts of languages. But you're very comfortable, you're becoming more comfortable. The prejudice in your life is dissipating now. We're starting to edit the prejudices, all the prejudices in your life and trash it in garbaggio and eradicate it because that's got you into trouble as well. Prejudice is, it's not good for you. So you sit there and say, it doesn't matter the person's nationality, color, creed, religion, sexuality, status or authority, or their gender or their age. They deserve to be here. You're totally worthy and deserving of all the goodness and greatness, and so are they. The good Lord put them here just as much as you. They're just as special as you, and maybe they got a better suntan than you. But notice how the world is structured. The whites were in the north, the blacks were in the south, the yellows were in the east, and the reds were in the west. And yet you put them all together and everything else, and all of a sudden they have trouble with each other. And because, you're not exactly the same as me, so you can't be aligned with me. And yet, quite frankly, when you get in close to people, they're strange when you first meet them, but you're becoming particularly good with strangers because after the first handshake, they're no longer a stranger. And then you find out they've got just as many challenges on their shoulders as you've got on your shoulders. And, warm and friendly is a nice place to be. So we're going to trash a few things in garbaggio. Hate is useless. Whatever I declare is useless is trash in garbaggio automatically. Hate is useless. Evil is useless. Vengeance is useless. Vindictiveness is useless. Payback is useless. Guilt is useless. Shame is useless. Destructiveness is useless. Nastiness is useless. Arrogance is useless. Sloppiness is useless. Stupidity is useless. There's some useful things in your life, but there's some useless things in your life. And you sit there and say, where you put the emphasis in your life. So now you're starting to put your emphasis on positive, constructive, and creative thinking, maybe for the first time in your life, where you sit there and say, no. I'm in control of me. I'm in control of me. You're in total control now. You're assuming control like you've never assumed it before of you. You're not in control of anybody else. You will influence everybody else. You're of tremendous influence everybody else. Everything you think, say, and do, and how you act and react, and what you dream about influences everybody. Dreaming is a very important thing, yes. And you dream about what you want, not what you don't want. So you're giving yourself permission to dream a little bit more and say, just take a little portion of the day and, you put your mind on the dreaming aspect. If I could dream, if I had a dream. And you sit there and say, you dream about what you want and you give it full clarity and you imagine yourself with your creative imagination, because we've talked about that today. Your imagination, you're allowing your imagination to flourish and you're utilizing your creative imagination to a much greater degree than ever before, and knowing and understanding that as a warm and friendly person, you're simply good and getting better. You're in a constant state of improvement. You're evolving. You participate on a regular basis because you're interested in evolution. You get involved to evolve, and you're evolving beautifully, wonderfully, perfectly. And it just feels good. It feels good to be around people. It feels good to deal with the young people. The young people, they're so eager to make it work. They're a little bit different than the older ones, but they've got their own perspective on it. But it's their time. It's a baton passing thing. We pass the baton on to the younger ones, and they carry the ball. And so if you can pass down your wisdom to somebody, you teach, train, and coach, and condition all your people in the finest and best way possible, because you've got stuff. You never know how smart you are until you start to teach others, and then you realize you know a lot of stuff. You've gathered a lot of stuff along the way. Now it's time to pass the ball. And so you sit there and say, well, who could I be teaching that I'm not teaching now? Who should I connect in with that I haven't connected in with now? And when it comes to exercise and everything else, so maybe I'll do a little bit more today than I did yesterday. Just maybe one more repetition. And, and you give your body. It's not about gluttony. Gluttony is useless. Force is useless. Force is absolutely useless. Whatever you try to force, the opposite takes place. It'll come back and smack you in the face. It's not about that. It's not about square pegs going in round holes. It's not about that. And you understand that the word no is meaningless in this business. It only means I'm not ready. It doesn't mean you don't qualify, you don't live up to standards, and you're not good enough. It doesn't mean that at all. So your idea of being rejected, but when they say no to you, they sit there and they're just not ready to do it. But, when you get inventive and creative and you use your creative imagination with regard to your approach, all of a sudden you can tell a story. You become a very good storyteller. You can take the 10, 7, and 5 and tell it in such a way that in 10 minutes, they're so enthralled they want to hear more. If you can't talk, they're never going to get the 7 and the 5 unless you tell the 10 properly. And you start to sit there and say, I'm going to get really good at this. I'm going to take that cartoon, that 4-minute million, I'm going to start showing that to everybody. I'm going to make it my business. I'm going to multiply my business by 2. Why? Because I'm totally capable. Totally capable. I'm conscientious. Notice how many words start with C. And I'm coordinated. And I believe in continuity. And my life is in a constant state of improvement because I want self-improvement. I'm interested in self-improvement. But I'm interested in helping other people to self-improve as well. Being helpful and supportive. We heard that a lot on the stage over the last couple of days, how other people helped other people, the triangle. All of that stuff from Frank, all the different messages that we heard that were absolutely invaluable. You sit there and say, that's why I came to the convention. Well, you're going to participate whenever we can have the convention. We need a bit of a reprieve next year, because it's my job from the standpoint of being the captain of the ship to make sure that we're prudent with regard to the utilization of money, because it's preservation. We sit there and say, no, we got to preserve everything, keep safe and sound. There's icebergs in the water. You sit there and say, no, you have to reach your destination. So you're destination oriented, and you're getting better with your goal definition than ever before. You're taking time now for yourself, and you take a piece of paper and you write down your goals, write down your dreams, write down the definition of who you are, what you want to be, and you're starting to affirm like never before. If prompter has never been on your agenda, it's on your agenda now, so you're just automatically going to sign up. When you leave here, you're just automatically going to sign up and say, no, that's what I do. When we ask you at the end of the rainbow, how'd you become so successful? You're going to sit there and say, I took that prompter app and I started doing that. Now I'm affirming each and every day in the finest and best way possible, and I'm building and stabilizing myself from the inside out, not the outside in, the inside out, as a result of assuming the present tense and becoming the finest and best person that I can possibly be. That's my responsibility to myself, my family, and my kids, and I enjoy every moment of it. It's all about enjoyment. Wow. Okay, so we've just tightened up a lot of loose screws. Wow. Now I return from that computer room. I'm coming back into the elevator with you. The door's closed behind me. I'm standing there with you. You swivel your chair around to the front door, and I push the button for the penthouse. And we start to move up. It's just a gradual thing. It's like decompressing if you're a deep sea diver. You got to decompress very slowly. And you're starting to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Wiggle your fingers and your toes a little bit. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Blood circulation improving. You've got excellent blood circulation to all parts of your body. Excellent digestion, assimilation, and elimination. You've got very strong feet, ankles, and Achilles. Flexible, pliable, and strong knees and hips, right? You got excellent posture. You walk tall with your shoulders back, chest out, stomach in, head held high, feeling good about yourself, proud of yourself. Yes, it all starts at home with you, and you're of tremendous influence on everybody. And you're filled with goodness and greatness. You're doing nothing but from this point forward but radiate goodness and greatness with a positive, constructive, and creative attitude to everybody. Now we're moving in the elevator, moving up faster and faster and faster. We're coming like from the center of the earth up to the surface of the earth, and we're going at full speed now. At full speed, the speed of light, shooting up. But the blood circulation is there. Everything is there. You're getting robust. You're starting to come into full consciousness, absolute full consciousness, becoming more alert, awake, astute. You haven't opened up your eyes yet. We haven't arrived yet. We're arriving right up to the top penthouse floor, slowing down, stopping, stopped completely. The doors of the elevator open up. You open up your eyes. feeling absolutely fabulous. We are complete. Welcome back. Now, I don't know about you, but today was good for me. Was it good for you? We're not finished yet. We want tonight, we're closing off at 12 o'clock. Now, I'm going to make an announcement at this particular time. We haven't announced this yet. Out of prudence, okay, and keep in mind, we watch every nickel. We've got to do safe, sound, and secure because we want to be the company of refuge, a safe, sound, and secure company of refuge. So when the storm passes by, it's going to get a little stormy out there over the next year and a half. They got a lot of political stuff, and they got stuff that they've got to work out. But it's a wonderful opportunity for the North American continent, this is Canada and the United States, to reinvent itself. My job has been to reinvent real estate. You've seen how that's gone, and you know how that feels. You know, it either really feels good for you or it doesn't. If it doesn't, you shouldn't be in this room. But it's time for the North American continent to reinvent itself. So you're going to see a lot of paradigm shifts and everything else, and we're going to be in a much better place later. But that's the responsibility of others. That's not on your doorstep. You've got to do what you got to do. You got to stay in your own circle. That's what that's all about. So reinvention is what it's all about, and that's it's going to be better later. And there's going to be a lot of bright light out there, and it's going to be a high-tech world. High-tech world. We haven't even touched high-tech. Haven't even touched it. And that's what the age of Aquarius is all about. Is high-tech. And the young kids really get in on that. Okay, they're born knowing hand-eye coordination. They disconnect the umbilical cord and they plug in the laptop in the same place. And these kids they're ready to go. Okay, I don't relate to that, but they do. And so you sit there and say, but eat what's on your plate. And my mother used to say, mind your own business. Mind your own business. Stay in your own circle. Stay in your own circle. You're a realtor. Okay, one way or another, you're a realtor, right? And you set out to do that in the finest and best way possible. So you're proud of you by the time you go to sleep tonight, one day at a time, passionately. That's what you do. Well, we got tonight to take into consideration, and the gifting, we've always done the $25,000 to 3 people and everything else, and we said, times are tough out there. A head of lettuce costs $6, right? And you can buy a hamburger and fries and a triple drink for $5, okay? But you buy a head of lettuce and it costs $6. And you sit there, what's going on here? Tougher times. So we took a look at this and said, okay, we have to budget. Now, I've never been really aligned with the idea of budgeting. My people at head office say, you don't even know how to spell the word. I will never give it a capital letter. And you sit there and say, but they grab me by the throat. Most of them females grab me by the throat. You sit there and say, we got to tighten up a little bit and everything else, but we want to make it good for everybody, but we want to make it good for more people than just 3. So we've done that, okay? So here's how this is going to go tonight at the ball. We draw 22 names, as you well know. We'll go through that ritual. That's the 10, 7, and 5 added up to 22 names, okay? And the top 10 will get $3,000 US cash. Cash. Right there. Erica Gillio will control that at midnight. It finishes at midnight. We're not going to 1:30 in the morning because people want to get home for Halloween. And we're trying to take everything into consideration here. So you're going to have to sign for the cash, so you can't come back and say, I never got my money. And sign for it and everything else. She'll give it to you, and then you take that right back to your room. Don't put it in your purse and leave it on the table. Hello. No. Right at the end, right at the very end. Pumpkin hour, you're getting your money if you win. The others, there'll be the watch. They get a watch. The balance of 22, you get a watch. And, of course, we have to order the watches and everything else. That'll come later. So that's how that's going to go. But I want you on that dance floor. I want you to blow off steam like you've never blown off steam before. I don't care if you got 2 left feet or you got 1 leg. I don't really care. I want you on the floor, and I want you to show me what you got, okay? And so that we have a ball. It's HABBAT, have a ball all the time, all right? And you sit there and say, that's what this company's all about. If you can't have fun doing it, don't do it. Now, how many people have had fun this week? Good? Yeah. Now, when it comes to my sense of input with regard to this, that's all I got, and I hope that was enough for you. So, one word for you: go forth and multiply. Thank you very much. Now, thank you. We love each and every one of you. Now, I could not do this, and I've said this before many times. The stabilizer in our household is my wife, Kathy. I want to bring her up to present her with the roses. Most wonderful mother, most wonderful grandmother I've ever met. If I was a young kid, I would just love to have her as my grandmother. She's born for this. She does such a fabulous job. Hard worker, diligent, competent, capable, takes good care of herself. And they just love her to bits. She's such a wonderful example for me. So let's bring her up to the stage. Let's present her with her roses.